Welcome back. Okay, so we've just spent a little bit of time looking at headings and getting our headings and structure all sorted out, and now we're going to start to reap the rewards. So we're going to use that structure that we've built into our document, and we're going to use it to generate a table of contents. So it's not going to take very long. It's a fairly easy process. So let's whip around to the document and get on with it. Okay, so we're back into our document. Everything is still as we left it. We've got a couple chapters in here with a bunch of headings laid out. And what I want to do is I want to put in a table of contents. The table of contents normally comes ahead of chapter 1 and part of the formatter of your report. And so we're just going to go right up to the beginning of the document and we're going to put it in. So where you find the table of contents is not under insert where you might think, but under references. That's the way they do it. And the first button off to the left we see is table of contents. And if you press it, it offers you a few different formatting choices. And pick one that's as close to what you want as per your requirements of where you're publishing it. But you can always change that after, because what it does is it incorporates a bunch of built-in styles. And of course, as we already understand, you can modify those styles to look any way you want. So we're just going to pick the first one on the top, which works for us. And right away we get a table of contents. And what you see in that is that it's built up on a series of the heading styles. So heading 1, heading 2, heading 3. And we see that throughout. And it just comes over and it puts down what page it's on. The contents title itself, it's chosen, it's got a style associated with it. We can update that style to be something else or choose one of our headings. It depends on how your document is set up, but certainly you can change that. Now, one thing I wanted to point out, so let's say we go down here and when we're editing things, we decide we're going to add an extra heading and paragraph, and we're going to do that right in front of this one. So I'm just going to copy and paste it in. So now we have 1.1, 1.2, but if we go up to our table of contents, you see it's not represented. That's simply because the field has not updated itself. Now the field updates itself automatically in a couple different times. It usually updates itself when you save the document, or if you go to print the document, it will automatically update that field. But if you're wondering what it looks like and you want to make sure that it's representing what you want, the easy way to force an update is with the F9 key, which will update any field that is selected. So you can select the whole document and update it. You can select a single field and update it. In this case, I'm just going to choose the table of contents. I'm going to make sure my function key is pressed, and I'm going to press F9, and it asks me, do I want to update the page numbers only? So if you haven't changed any of the structure, but you've just added text, your page numbers have probably changed. You could choose that. In our case, we changed the structure. So we want to update the entire table, and we press OK, and it just goes and it pulls the headings in the document and it updates itself to be reflective of the current document. Okay, before we get rid of or call this little tutorial closed, let's have a quick look at how the table of contents displays the information and make sure that we're going to get the table of contents that we really want in our document. So the table of contents up here, if we go to custom table of contents, so it's going to be based on what we're already using, but let's look and see what options we have within it. So obviously if you don't want the dots, the tab leaders going across, you could choose to do something different there, and let's just apply that and you can see how it looks differently. Go back up. I personally am quite, there we go. Quite happy with the dots, but it also tells you, I mean, this, so I was fiddling with it earlier, this normally is at 3 when it comes up, so that means it's only going to show you headings 1, 2, and 3 in the table of contents. You may want more, you may want less. So 3 is probably not a bad number. Beyond that, the level of detail is probably not important at the table of contents level, but if you do need to increase it, you can go ahead and increase it. And the other thing too is you can choose for the document. Remember, most of the documents that we're producing these days are for electronic distribution or publication, and so you can have those show up as hyperlinks, and that normally will carry forward if you save it as a PDF or something like that. You get the hyperlinks in the PDF document, so it is handy to have your table of contents hyperlinked to the chapters and headings that they are referring to. So we'll leave that checked. The one thing I want to do, so let's say we're going to cap this at, we're only going to show 3 levels. And maybe we have 4 levels actually used of headings 1 through 4 in our document. So we're not planning on ever using heading 5. So I'm going to use heading 5 a little bit for my own purposes. I'm going to kind of make the table of contents do something which I've never found particularly easy to make it work. So I'm going to bring this up to 5, so it'll show through 5, but we know that 5 is not actually going to be used. So I will say yes. So now it's there. It hasn't changed anything because we don't have 4 and 5 in there. But now what I want to do is I want to create a heading for the table of contents itself. So we're going to go up before it, give it a table of contents. Oops. Helps if I could spell contents. Whoa, I'm having a good day. Table of contents. There we go. And go back to my home tab, and I'm going to make that a heading 5. It's not showing up here, so if I choose 4, it'll force 5 to show up. Now I can choose 5, so it is heading 5. Now I want to make heading 5 look a lot like heading 1. So that was the Calibri Light, but it was at 16 points. I seem to recall it's that color. And in this case, I'm going to turn the numbering system off for that level of the heading. And so really what I get is something that looks like a heading 1, but doesn't have the number or the chapter title in front of it. So that's going to be useful to me. So the next bit is I'm going to go into my table of contents itself, and I'm going to bring up, back to references, bring up my custom, before we do that, let's update this. So just to show a different way of updating, I go up here, choose update table, update the entire table, and there we go, we have table of contents. Now it doesn't look in there like I want it to look, because I want it to be appear with the chapter titles. So let's do that. So what this is a style in itself. That's TOC5, associates with heading 5, TOC5. And we can see that by, if I open up my style sheet, we'll see the various styles associated with the table of contents. So we know we're on table of contents 5. So all I have to do is bring that over to be left justified, and it will look identical to the other ones. And then all I have to do is update it, update to match selection, and now I'm going to, any of the headings that I use using table of contents 5 are going to show just like they were chapter titles, both in their own right, plus in the table of contents, without the chapter heading, which is exactly what I was going for. The other thing that I want to do, so the table of contents field gives you this heading. I don't really want that, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here, table of contents heading, I'm going to do the drop down, and I'm going to clear the formatting for that instance, and it's just going to get rid of it, which is very much what I want. Now, the one thing I didn't do on the table of contents or heading 5 is I didn't add the space after. So let's do that. Drop down our paragraph box. Remember, we had 3 spaces or 3 lines. Let's assume that that's what we want here. So we'll bring it up to 36. We say yes and update to match selection. And now we're starting to, let's update this just to see if it's all working for us. Oop. Update the entire table, and there we go. And we're going to add to this. We're going to get a little bit more sophisticated as we learn the parts of the document later on. What we're going to do is we're going to end up having a different style of page numbering for the formatter than we do for the rest of our document. And eventually these are going to reflect that. And so that's going to be great. Oh, actually, let's take that. We don't need a table. There we go. So there you go. So we have our table of contents, and it's probably in a little bit better shape than it was a few minutes ago as far as being able to reflect the different components of the document and making sure it is looking the way we expect it to look in our final product.